Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon and good evening based on wherever you live. Welcome back to my channel. Today we will be continuing our Salesforce interview question series, and this is the part 4 video where I will be discussing more about business logic. So let's get started. So the very first question for today's video is, what is a formula field? Okay, so the formula field is one of the field in Salesforce, which is a read-only field. Means a user cannot edit and enter any value in this field. Okay, with the name itself, you can identify that this is not something which you enter the data. It's something to do with entering the formula. Okay, you will write the formula based on multiple different fields, and then the final result will be displayed in this field. Okay, and the value of the formula field is evaluated from the formula or expression defined by us. We have to write this formula or expression. Formula fields can be created in both standard objects as well as in custom objects. So you don't have any restrictions on which object you can create. You can create on any type of object. If we change the expression of formula, then automatically the value of the formula will be updated. If we change the formula in future based on our requirements, okay, then let's say, for example, initially I created the formula based on the values of two field, right? And then later on my requirement change, and I want to write the formula based on three different fields. So as soon as I update that, automatically formula field, the value of the formula field will be updated. Okay, so this is how formula field where we write the formula field. Okay, you can write the complete formula. You have so much of space to write the formula field. How much space we have to write the formula field, we will discuss in future questions. So what is the maximum character limit of the formula field? Like we have the text box to write the formula, but how much limit we have? Okay, how big can our formula be, right? So that is the question. And the answer to this is, we can write the formula field with a maximum of 3600 characters. Okay, this is important. And a maximum number of characters displayed after an evaluation of a formula expression is 1300. Okay, so even though you can enter the characters of 3600, but after it evaluates, it should be of 1300. You cannot see this after what happens after evaluation, but Salesforce gives you an error if it is exceeding this 1300 limit after evaluation. Okay, so that you can reduce the formula. And then it cannot exceed 4000 bytes when we saved, and cannot exceed 5000 byte when compiled. Okay, so when we save, so it should not exceed 4000 characters, and when we compile it, it should not go beyond 5000 bytes. This is the size. Okay, this is the character length. Okay, don't get confused between this bytes as well as the character length. Okay, so this is for character length and this is internal bytes. Okay, and the next question is, what can we do if the requirements for the formula field is very complex and it exceeds the character limit, right? So everything should have some limit, right? What will happen, your requirement is not fulfilling by writing the form which will fit into 3600 characters, right? So you might have a requirement where you have written the formula, but it is exceeding 3600. Let's say, for example, your requirement is fulfilling by writing 4000 characters. So what will you do in that scenario, right? We have multiple options. Let's see what are the options we have. So we can either divide the logic into multiple formula fields and get the desired output in one formula field using the results of the other two formula fields. Let me elaborate what I am talking about regarding this first point. Okay, so what I can do is, I have to write one formula, but what I'll do instead, I will divide this based on some logic. Okay, or based on the requirement. If I can divide that logic into two logical divisions, then I will divide that logic and I will write half of the logic in one field and half of the logic in another field, right? But the final field which I want to show, I'll create another field, third field, right? So the results of the two fields should show into the third field. Like that I can divide, right? Instead of using one formula field, I can use three fields. Two is for my background logic, just to divide the logic because it is exceeding the character limit, and the final one which will be displayed on the page layout, which users can see, right? We can do that and do that, but it happens very, very rarely. Okay, even only if you don't want to write the code, you can do that. But if you are flexible enough to write the code, then we can achieve that requirement, the complex requirement, using triggers. Okay. You might ask, okay, will we write this complex formula fields? I would say 100% we write a lot of complex fields. Okay, sometimes we have to write a formula based on multiple states, right? If a country is having multiple states, then they will the formula keep on increasing, right? So in that scenario, if you wish, you can go and write a trigger, but always formula is there to solve that type of requirement, or display the formula field. So the next question we have here in this is, which type of fields cannot be used in the formula field? Okay, so there is one other limitation. You cannot create a formula field for any type, right? Like you cannot create for any type, in the sense, any data type cannot be used for a formula. There are specific fields type which Salesforce allows. So what are the different types we can use to create the formula field? Okay, let's see this. So long text area, encrypted and or description fields cannot be used in the formula fields, right? So long text area I cannot use in formula fields. Encrypted I cannot use. Even description fields I cannot use. Okay. What is the difference between isPic-val and include? This is really interesting. Okay. Initial days when admins or developers onboards into a Salesforce role, they do a lot of mistake in this one, right? So let's see what is the difference between isPic value and includes. So isPic value is used for single pick list values. Okay, if I want to write a formula and if I want to use that pick list value in the formula, let's say for example I have a pick list called city. Okay, I have multiple cities in that one. Okay, that is a single pick list value. So if I want to say if city equals to New York, I cannot do that, right? I have to write a formula with isPic list val. Okay, and then this will only applicable for pick list, but we will have multi-select pick list as well. So for multi-select pick list, if I want to write condition, I cannot write if city equals to New York, comma Chicago, comma something else, right? We cannot do that. So if it is a multi-select pick list, we have to write includes. Okay, multi-select pick list values in the formula field or validation rules. Okay, this is same is applicable for formula fields as well as for the validation rules. Okay, next one, explain the difference between is null and is blank. This is also a very common question now. If someone is trying to grill you in formula fields and validation rules. So what is the difference between this is null and is blank? Let's go ahead and see. So is null and is blank have the same functionality. Okay, end of the day you will have the same result, but is blank can be used for both numbers as well as text. Okay, I can use a text field to check whether it's a blank or not, or I can use even number fields, okay, to check whether it's a blank or not, right? But is null can only be used for numbers. Okay, I can use is null along with only number type fields, right? And use is blank instead of is null for any new formulas. Is null was the function which was initially created by Salesforce, but later on Salesforce came up with is blank, right? So it's always better to use is blank, right? So that's the reason I'm saying that use is blank instead of is null for any new formulas. If it is written already, don't worry about it. But whenever you're creating the new formula or validation rule, just go ahead and use is blank whenever you want to check null. Cool. And next question is, what are the return types for the formula fields, right? So return type in the sense, for example, I'm calculating this formula and I'm getting some result. Okay, my result can be anything, right? It can be a number, it can be a text, it can be anything, it can be true, false, or whatnot, right? So what is the return types? What return types we can use for formulas? Okay, so we can have multiple return types, but the first one is checkbox, like true or false can be a return type of a formula. It can be a currency, can be a return type of a formula. Date can also be a written type of a formula, right? And date time can also be a written type of a formula. And number can be a written type. Percent can also be a written type, and text can also be a written type of a formula. Let's go ahead and see how written type looks in Salesforce. So when you are trying to create the formula, you will have this formula return type, right? You have to be, even before creating the formula, you have to check whether what return type you want to select, whether your final result will be a checkbox which is true or false, or a currency, a date, date time, number, percent, text, or time, right? You have to select this one. And based on what you select here, you have decimal places also, right? For example, I select number and I want to give a decimal place, then I can give the decimal place as well. Okay. What will be the return type of a formula field when we have to find the difference between two dates? Okay. This is a question for you. Example, like date of joining minus today. So what will happen? Okay, this normally people or candidates don't focus on this question, and they tend to do mistake over here. That is the reason I have included this in our interview question series. So as soon as they see, okay, what is the difference between two dates, they think that okay, that the result will also be a date, right? But that is not the case. The case is it will be a number, right? For example, I'm trying to find out date of joining minus today, means it could be a 30 days or 45 days, whatever it is, right? So since the difference between the two dates will be a number like 30 days completed since joined, right? For example, I want to find out how many days before I joined the company. If I minus 2 days, right? Today minus date of joining, then definitely I'll get the number of dates. Okay. So the return type will be number. So likewise, you try to do multiple different combinations and see what return types you are getting for your formulas. Okay. Next question is, what are the cross object formula field? This is also a really important question. Okay. So cross object formula fields are built using referencing the fields from another related object. Okay. I want to show the formula based on the data of field from another object. So that is nothing but the cross object formula field. Okay. So it can be related to other object either using master detail relationship or lookup relationship. Okay. It cannot be, between two unrelated objects. This is important, right? It should have some relationship, whether it should be a master detail relationship or a lookup relationship. Always cross object formula fields can be created on child object, okay, by referring the field from the parent object. So I can show the data of a parent on a child object. I cannot show the other way using cross object formula field. Next question is, what are the validation rules? Okay, we have learned everything about formula fields. Now let's go and see what are validation rules. Validation rules are used to enforce the user to enter the correct data. Okay. Let's say, for example, I'm trying to enter, I was asked to enter email address. So I'm just writing 12345 in the email address. So we should stop the user to do that. So then what we'll do, I'll write a validation rule to check whether my user is entering something @ something.com. Okay. So for that thing, we can, even though we already have a ready-made formula called email, I'm just giving you this as an example. So we can enforce such type of validations, to have a good data in our orgs. Okay. So validation rules are executed when the record is created or updated. So as soon if I'm entering the wrong data and I have a validation rules in place and I'm trying to save it, it will give me an error. Okay. So when it will happen? Whenever we are creating the record or whenever we are updating the record. Okay. Another example could be phone numbers, right? I'm not entering the phone number proper. I'm just entering 3 digits in the phone number, right? So we can give such type of validations as well. Okay. Next, when a user enters the wrong data, then an error message will be displayed on the page and record will not be saved. If we give some validation rule, then what will happen? If it doesn't fulfill the validation, then Salesforce will throw an error, and as well as it will not save that data. Validation rules are specific for the field. So we can create validation rule for each field, right? As I said, if I'm entering wrong email or wrong phone number or wrong anything, right? So create the validation for the specific fields. So this is how we create the validation. You can write the role name, you can write description. Okay, you can enter the same formula field, or you can enter the whatever validation you want, but it is in the same format of formula. How we create formula fields, in the same way you can write the formula over here. Okay, and then error message. Okay, what error message you want to show on the page, you can show. And we have another option called whether should I show on the top of the page or whether I should show just near to the field. Okay, it depends on what requirement you have. Okay, what is the best practices your company following, or whatnot. There are multiple different things, so you will have this in the requirement when you are developing. Okay, the next question is there a way to avoid deletion of record using validation rule? Okay, can we stop, for example, I have a record, I'm deleting a record. Can we use a formula field to stop the user from deleting? Let's see. No. Okay, we cannot stop deletion using the validation rule. Okay, so no, validation rules cannot be used to avoid deletion of records because it executes only on insert and update. Okay, very important. You should understand when this will run, right? It will run only on inserts and updates. So obviously we cannot control the deletion with the help of validation rules. Okay. Next question is how to ignore or bypass validation rule. There are multiple scenarios wherein we have to ignore the validation rule, or we have to bypass the validation rule, right? So can we do that? Okay, let's see. If it is written, then we cannot bypass. Okay, that is what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, there are two answers to this question. If there is any option to just go ahead and bypass this one, no, we don't have that ready-made option, but we can do that. Let's see what I'm explaining here in this question. So we cannot ignore or bypass the validation rule, but when we want to avoid running validation rules while doing the data upload, sometime we have to do the bulk upload on account. Okay, so might be my data which I'm loading does not fulfill all the validations, and I don't want my validation rule to stop loading the data. That time what generally people do, right? They try to go and deactivate, right? Then we can deactivate the validation rules and activate it again after the completion of the data load. So normally this happens at the time of data load, right? When we want to avoid it, right? That is one time activity. When we are loading the data, that time I can stop the validations and I can reactivate it later on. Okay. Next, can we run the validation rule only for a new record and not while updating the records, right? I want to see the validation running only, only for the new records, and I don't want to, have the same validation message when someone is updating the record, right? Can we do that? Yes, we can do that. We can use isNew function in the validation rule to run the validation rules only on new records. What this isNew function will do, function will check whether this is a new record or not, right? So when isNew returns true, the new record is getting created, right? And when the isNew returns false, then the record is getting updated, right? Based on this condition, we can run validation rules only for the new records. I don't want any old data to throw a validation error when the users are trying to update it, right? So that time I'll just give validation only on isNew. Again, it depends on your requirement, what requirement you have. Okay, if your company say no, whenever the users are updating the records in future, also old records and in future, then also you should throw an error, then you don't have to use it. Okay, but there are some scenarios at times we have to just throw the error when the new record is getting created. Then yes, this is the function you should use. Next question is, can we use validation rules to make the field mandatory, and why we use validation rule for this instead of using page layouts or making a field required when creating the field? Okay, just read this question 2 to 3 times, okay, if you don't understand. So what I'm asking is, can we make the field mandatory using validation rules, right? And if your answer is yes, we can make the field validation mandatory based on validation rule, then why do we do that, right? Because we have other options as well, right? To we can make it mandatory based on the page layout. we can make it mandatory based on the object while creating the field. Then why do we do that, right? Let's see what I'm explaining here. So yes, we can use validation rules to make the field mandatory in a scenario when we want to make the field mandatory based on some condition. This is really important. Okay, if I want to make some condition, make the validation based on some condition, right? If the field should be always have if the field should always be mandatory, then I can go ahead and do it from the either page layout or from the field settings, right? But I want the validation of mandatory field only based on some conditions, then I have to use validation rules. Okay, so let me read it again. Yes, we can use validation rules to make the field mandatory, right? In a scenario when we want to make the field mandatory based on some condition or based on the data of some other field, right? Then we can use the validation rule. Okay. So for example, when the user enters opportunity status is equals to close lost, then we can make the field lost reason mandatory, right? So lost reason will not be mandatory on any other stage. Only when the status is equals to close lost, that time only I want to make lost reason mandatory. So for that type of fields, making mandatory, we can use validation rule. Okay, so that we can enforce user to enter the lost reason when the opportunity is lost. Okay, just go ahead and try this and let me know how it goes in the comments. Next question is what are record types? This is really important. Okay, let's see what it is. A record type is used to differentiate different business processes, pick list values, and page layouts for different users. See, people know, people work, people use it. I mean, I'm talking about admins or devs, but many times in an interview, they try to, give a wrong answer, or they don't give the full answer for this record type. So just read it carefully what I'm trying to explain here. Okay. There are a few specific things you have to mention when you're talking about record types, right? So for example, if we use record types to differentiate computer science courses and non-computer science courses, then I can use record type is equals to computer science. Okay. So for example, I'm creating a student wherein student should be of computer science, and he will be having fields specific to computer science, right? So what I will do, I will create a record type. I will create a page layout and assign this page layout to this computer science record type, right? So that only fields related to computer science will be displayed on this page layout. Okay, this is the first important thing regarding the record type, right? And let's see, next important thing is pick list also. Okay, it can differentiate the value of pick list. Let's say, for example, I have 10 pick values in the pick list value, but for computer science, I just want to show this 4 only, right? So even that time we have to use record types. Okay. See, another record type I've created, not computer science courses. Record type is equals to non-computer science, and then a pick list value for course. Course is a field here. Course is a field here. Okay. And then in this course, I'm seeing values as Java, Oracle, C++, Python. But the same course field, it is not a different field, same course field. But when I'm selecting record type is equals to non-computer science, it is showing me AutoCAD, CAD, CAM, MATLAB, right? These are the extra courses which I'm trying to give to non-computer science people, right? So this is the whole thing where record types are important, right? Just go ahead and try this as well and see how you see the values of pick list when you select different record types. Okay, which pick lists are not available for record types? So as I said, when we can differentiate the values of pick list, right? So it will give me an option. Okay, these are the pick list in your accounts or whatever, wherever you create this record type, and select the pick list to show what values on on a particular record type. But there are some pick list values which are not available for differentiating the values, right? What are those? So there are some special pick list values which are not available for record types. Okay, we cannot differentiate the values in record types. Okay, these are opportunity stage, core status, solution stage status, lead status, and yeah, these are the 4 1. Okay, because these are the exclusively used for sales process, support process, and lead process and solution process. That is the reason we cannot do anything to these in record types. Okay, go ahead and try record types as well as processes, right? Lead process, solution process, case process, and opportunity process, and see how it is happening. Okay, this is also really important when you are implementing sales cloud, service cloud projects. Next question is there any limit on the creation of record types? Let's see what is the answer. So while there is no limit on the number of record types can be created, but it is best practice to limit total record types to 200. Even though it's a 200 is a best practice, but 200 is too much, I'm telling you, right? Maximum 10, 15 is max, right? Otherwise, you will be not be giving a good I would say user experiences. Okay, if it's a big organization and you have multiple different divisions, and one division is using max of three record types only, but overall total for the company you might have created 200, that's still fine, right? But don't give a lot of record types option to the users, and don't try to create unnecessary record types as well. Okay, this will complicate your object, I would say. Okay. Next question is, what is a dependent pick list? Okay, let's see what is a dependent pick list. So a dependent pick list is a pick list whose values are dependent on the values of another pick list. Okay, best example I will give country and city, right? If I am selecting a USA as in a country pick list, and I have another pick list called city, if I'm selecting USA in the country, then I should see only the cities related to USA, right? I cannot show London in whenever I'm selecting a country as USA, right? So for UK, then yes, London or whatever fields we have. And for Australia, I can show the cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, etc. Right? So what that means? So the city field is dependent on the country field. So that is nothing but the dependent pick list, right? The other pick list can be a controlling field. Controlling field is the one from where I'm controlling the dependent field, right? So in this example which I have given to you, which one is controlling and which one is dependent, right? So it's easy, right? So controlling field is my country pick list value is controlling, and my city pick list value is a dependent pick list. Okay. So the other pick list can be a controlling field which controls or derives the data of the dependent pick list. Okay, try this as well. Okay, so the best thing, to remember it in the interview, right? Do it, right? So that in an interview you can visualize things, right? So don't by heart interview questions, especially for technology. You try to do and see how is it happening. Even when you are trying to prepare for interview, don't just take the printouts of the interview questions and read it. Okay, read one interview question, and in parallel just go ahead and see the screen how it is looking in Salesforce, so you will never forget, right? So just don't read the interview questions. Even I know it will take some time, but you will never forget when you are sitting in the interview. You can visualize all the screens when you whatever you have gone through when you are preparing for the interview. Okay, so multi-select pick list can be used as a dependent pick list, but it cannot be used as a controlling field, whereas checkbox can be used as controlling field, but it cannot be used as dependent field. This is also, go ahead and try. Okay, try to make multi-select pick list as a controlling field and see whether it will allow or not, right? Because here I'm saying that multi-select pick list can be used as dependent pick list only, right? But it cannot be used as controlling pick list values. And similarly, try to make checkbox as dependent pick list, right? And see what will happen, right? This way you will remember this one. Okay, so this is all about dependent pick lists. I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching the video. I hope this video helped you prepare for the Salesforce interview and crack your next job, right? If you like this video, make sure you hit like and subscribe to my channel right now. That way you don't miss out interview question and answers video, right? And if you want to read more interview questions, just head to my blog. I'll give the link of the blog in the comments, and you can read as well. Thank you.